Hey folks, Matt here with BaseMap. I'm flying solo today on episode 2 of, I guess, what we're calling our BaseMap podcast. And today we're going to talk about spring bear hunting opportunities. So, if you haven't checked out spring bear hunting, maybe you don't live in the West, you live in the East, but you're thinking, how do I get some more hunting opportunities throughout the year? Or maybe you live in the West where there's a lot of spring bear hunting opportunities and you just haven't taken advantage of it. Hopefully, we'll cover some good information here today. Um, I have a confession to make before we get into this. I am probably not the most qualified to talk about hunting tactics, so I'm gonna stay out of that because I am 0 for 3. So I've gone bear hunting 3 times out west in the spring, and every time I've come home unsuccessful, but I've had some great adventures. It's been really fun. So I can talk about that. But as we jump in here for opportunities, inside of the BaseMap Hunt Planner, we've got pretty much all of this listed. You can search and filter, so check that out. But if you don't have access to it, still going to give you this info for free. So you can always go on a state website and try to, dig it up yourself and find out, the best areas or units that you'd want to go to. But let's dive right into it. So as you get into spring black bear hunting, there's typically I'll say 3 categories of hunting opportunities. One, there's going to be the limited entry hunts. So there are states like Idaho, Oregon, let's see, New Mexico, and Utah that have some limited entry draw hunts that you would have to apply for and draw a permit for. So if those are hunts that you're interested in, they're typically either going to be, they're usually better hunts. They're limiting the opportunity. There's typically higher success rates, and you got to draw a tag to be able to get access to that hunt. So that's an option. Limited draw hunts, you could apply to those. Most of those hunts are going to occur. They'll either start in, let's say, mid-March, mid to end March, and run into May, or they're going to start in typically mid-April and run into June or July. So there's usually a big window for the hunting opportunity, 30 to 60 days for you to be able to go out and try to fill a tag. The thing to note is lots of times you have bears coming out of dens in high country, and so that window kind of coincides with melting snowpack and being able to access those bears that could be in those slopes and areas that are starting to green up and get some forage. So limited entry hunts. Then there are over-the-counter quota hunts. Um, so these hunts, you can just go and buy a license in the state. In most cases, whether it doesn't matter if you're a resident or a non-resident, you can just go buy an over-the-counter license. Of course, you non-residents, you'll get socked with a higher fee, often a much higher fee, but you can just go. And they're a harvest quota because the game and fish department will have set a number of bears that they are allowing to be harvested. So every 24 or 48 hours, make sure you read the regulations and check. You're going to have to call into a hotline and check and see if that harvest quota has been filled. And if it has been, they shut it down. So the hunt is shut down. That license that you have in your pocket is basically invalid at that point. So that's the way those harvest quota hunts work. You can typically go on and see either when the last year's quota was met. Sometimes you can see more data like that, but it's not reported usually in the same fashion that like harvest statistics are, where you can just go get multiple years worth of harvest statistics and easily access those reports. It's usually harder to see when the harvest quota is met each year. So that's an opportunity. And then there are other areas that it's just open. Okay, there's unlimited quota. You go buy a license and you can hunt until you either fill your tag or you're sick of trying to find a black bear. So typically areas that offer tags like that are going to be one of two categories. They're either going to be areas where, game and fish is trying to reduce the number of predators in that area. So they're willing to take, high harvest numbers out of the black bear population. Um, it could also be that it's very hard to actually find those black bears. So heavy, dense forest. Maybe you can't bait on public ground, and so it's really just spot and stock, or kind of happen to wander into a bear. Or it could, so either sort of predator reduction they're focused on, or it could be that it's a fringe area and they really don't want any black bears traveling or making a home range in that area. So you got to kind of watch for those tags just to understand whether or not it's, potential high density, or if it's an area that's sort of fringe. So, or high density, hard to hunt, I'll say. Those those can come in pairs. Um, okay, so there's some states that offer limited hunts. There's a number of states that have harvest quota hunts. Montana, uh, let's see, Idaho, what else we got on this? Wyoming and Arizona and Utah also has some. So a lot of these states will have both a limited entry and a harvest objective hunts. And then there's, areas in Idaho and Montana where it's just sort of unlimited harvest. It could be hard to access, could be hard to find the bears, that type of thing. So a lot of opportunity. And if you go into the hunt planner, you can see this sort and filter by different stats. One thing I will note that's a bit of a bummer on the black bear side is it can be hard to get harvest statistics on black bears. So lots of times the total number of bears that were harvested are reported, but the percentage or the success rate of hunters isn't reported. Now, why is that? Well, in some states, you can purchase a license, but the license is good for the entire state. So because you could calculate, let's say, an overall success rate in the state, but you can't calculate, let's say, a success rate for a particular unit because you don't really know how many hunters hunted in that unit. And the reason we don't know is because it's not required in harvest reporting for you to report what units you hunted in, how many days you hunted in, that type of stuff. So it's just not managed as tightly as your deer, elk, pronghorn, bighorn sheep, all of those types of species, where lots of times you have pretty good reporting requirements and pretty good details on the reporting. So, there might be times in the hunt planner where you say, I want a high success rate for black bear, and it just returns back nothing because we actually don't have harvest success rates for black bears. So you'll have to click into those units and try to look and see, what's the total number of bears that have been harvested. And then you'll see like we have graphs in there around harvest statistics per, I think it's 1,000 acres. And so, you'd be able to compare units by looking at that. And obviously, you could start to look for those areas that have higher harvest per 1,000 acres than other areas. Those could be good ones for you to focus on. So that's a little bit about how to use the hunt planner and how to access those hunts. Take a look at it. I'll talk briefly about my experiences hunting black bear. Hopefully you guys won't make the same mistakes if you go out there this year. So I've done 3 hunts, in 2 in Idaho and 1 in Wyoming for spring black bear. Wyoming's a quota, harvest quota or a harvest objective state. So you got to call in and make sure that the harvest objective wasn't met for that particular unit. And it was the first time I went. I went out to the western side of Wyoming, and I just really didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't even really, I realized now that I wasn't really even in the bear country, partly because I went in, it was kind of like early May, and the, Forest Service roads basically had too much snow for my truck to get into. I wasn't really prepared. I didn't have chains. I didn't, have a winch. I didn't have a shovel with me. I was kind of an idiot. And I realized watching other folks out there who were either just recreating for fun, hitting the trails, or that were hunting. Um, they were prepared. They were able to get through those higher snow drifts um, on the trails and get further back into the forest where the bears would have been. I was really out on the fringe where there wasn't good cover. There wasn't really good green up, honestly. And so yeah, it was kind of like 3 days of realizing that I couldn't get to where I would need to get to be able to find bears. So was a valuable learning experience. I got to see some pretty country, but couldn't even get to the zone. So a great newbie mistake. I also on that trip did a cardinal sin. I had a tent blow away. I was gonna pack up in the morning, and I pulled out stakes, and I thought, well, I'm down in this valley. There's really no wind. Doesn't look like there's supposed to be wind today. And I had some gear in the tent. I thought, well, that'll weigh it down while I go glass for an hour or two up on this hillside and just see if anything comes by. And when I got back down, my tent had blown into a creek. So also another good learning experience from just, what I was just a complete idiot then. This was like 6 years ago. So, and then I've hunted Idaho twice in the spring, and I was hunting in an area where it was, unlimited tags. You could buy as a non-resident, you could buy a license. I remember it was $20 or $40, but very cheap. It's one of these predator control areas where they're trying to reduce the black bear population. So the next year I decided to go earlier. I went at the end of May. And I had a better experience, but I ran into different problems. Again, just a guy that's not living out west, but traveling there. You're not in the mountains every day and seeing what you have to be prepared for. And so, well, I found, some better, fresher bear signs, better scat, some recent paw prints. Um, the direction the bear was traveling, it was across some creeks that were pretty swollen from snowpack melting, and I just couldn't cross. So ran into another issue where, I wasn't prepared to actually go after the bear to where the bear was headed. I couldn't cross the creek. I didn't think safely. There was no way for me to get to where he was going. So again, I spent a couple days, hitting a lot of trails, seeing more sign. But that's one of the things that I realized was staying mobile, and really checking out more area and just trying to find that fresh sign was kind of key. And I feel like if I go back this year, I'm much better prepared this time. So, anyways, that's your spring bear hunting update. Those application deadlines are coming up quick if you're going to do a limited draw hunt. Oregon is February 10th. Idaho is February 15th. And let me see. I didn't put the Utah date on here, but that's got to be right around the corner too, because I think those hunts are at the end of March they start. So get out there if you want to apply for one of those limited entry hunts. Check the respective state website, get your application in, check the hunt planner out, and I'd love to hear if you go out spring bear hunt. I'd love to hear your stories, or if you got any good tips, please leave them in the comments for mistakes not to make, or methods for getting out there and being successful. So hope you all have a good weekend. Over and out.